No, but you bring up the religion point in there a little bit. We haven't really talked about this today. We talked about it with Congressman Tim Burchett.
Yeah, Tim Burchett. Yeah.
Burchett, yeah, a little bit. But one of the things that really surprised me when I did the 2 podcasts with James Fox, because that was the first time on this podcast where we had delved into the phenomenon and, ufology and things like that. But I'm very active in my community and in the comment section. I love to see what people are thinking, good, bad, and indifferent. And I get a good feel for just, a sample size of what types of people are watching the content, who interacts with it. And the one thing that shocked me when I was going through a lot of the comments on those episodes is that, and I don't have to get into how I figured this out, but some of them were even blatant about it where they were saying it. But a significant number of people who interact with this content and then even looking at other content on the internet to look through comment sections and see if the patterns exist there, which they did, a significant number of people who are highly, highly interested in this content are extremely religious. And to be even more frank about it, extremely, seemingly Christian religious. And I would have never expected that because, you look at the Bible and stuff and like it's supposed to be like God, Son of Man, Jesus, like all this. And there's no room. There's like, you were talking about this earlier with me off podcast, but like it's like angels and demons and that's it.
Right.
And there's not really the room for the aliens. But the Tim Burchett example where he's a guy who looks at the Bible as potentially having some draws to aliens. And then my little sample size looking here of commenters on the internet and seeing that a lot of people seem to think this maybe without saying it as blatantly out loud like that. That is fascinating to me because it makes me think that people, even who maybe you wouldn't give this credit to, are more open-minded than we think.
Well, there's multifacets to this. The fundamental religious belief systems versus the non-human intelligence question. So one thing that Lou Elizondo told me, and that he's told this to other people, and he said it in the show Unidentified, one of the biggest things, surprisingly, that he ran into with opposition within the Pentagon and within the Defense Department to the work that he was doing is that there was a very large contingent of people that believed that this was a demonic force, as in demons, and that we shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be investigating it. We shouldn't be poking the tiger in the eye. And that was not just a little voice in the Pentagon. This was a huge group of people.
Wait, they thought the phenomenon that was being witnessed was demons?
Yes, within the military establishment, within the Pentagon, within DOD, there was a large number of people that opposed his work because they thought from a very, very fundamentalist viewpoint that we're dealing with demonic activity and that it actually affected his ability to move forward and get funding. It was one of the biggest oppositions that he said he ran into. And he said that to me. I have it. He said it on TV shows. You can find him saying it on the show Unidentified. So this is not something that I'm just making up. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where you have like Tim Burchett, who is Tim is a Christian man. He's a Republican. He's a representative for the state of Tennessee. Very, very salt of the earth, very, conservative views. But when I sat down and interviewed him, his feeling was, if you look in the Bible and you look at Ezekiel building the wheel, there's a lot of people that think that was a spaceship and that's okay. And so, there's another wing of Christianity that is okay with the idea. The Pope, the Catholic Church came out a few years ago and said, there's probably life on other planets. It's okay. It doesn't.
Wait, I didn't even know that. I should know that.
No, they made an official proclamation.
Really?
Yeah. And
fuck, I missed that.
Yeah, they did. It wasn't this Pope. It was the one before. But they acknowledged that there's probably life.
Benny did it?
Yeah, there's probably life on other planets, and that it's all right. And so we have official religion willing to entertain it. And I did a podcast on some show, and I didn't realize I was on a completely Christian fundamental channel. And the guy's like, no, it's angels and demons. We're not witnessing. There is no nuts and bolts aliens. And I'm like, dude, I will give you that there might be spiritual forces that are at play here. And I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to say that that's to the exclusion of there being other things at play. And they were just right down that, just absolutely not. This is all, there's humans and there's angels and demons. And there's
it's a battle
nothing
of good
else.
and evil.
Yeah. And so I find that challenging.
Yeah.
You know, because I was willing to concede that part of his belief system, as far as what he was seeing,
Yes.
had some validity possibly. I certainly wasn't going to rule it out. You know, but the idea that there's all kinds of things going on in this universe and we don't know any of them, very few beyond our own little planet. And to say that the spiritual answer of this biblical thing is the only answer to what we're seeing, I just thought that was sad that's and when I found out about stuff going on inside the Defense Department along those lines, I was shocked. And I talked to John Brandenburg about it.
That blows my mind that happened.
Yeah, it really did. And John Brandenburg, who's a researcher who's done a lot of work about Mars, you know, he told me the same thing. He was working under classification as a physicist for a long time, and he said, yeah, there's a big contingent that fundamental religion, extreme fundamental religion, is governing what we are investing our energy and our time in.
See, and I'm always very, very careful about saying this because I want to be clear. I respect people who have religion as a core part of their life, and I believe, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 90% of people use it for all the beautiful things, and I love it. Mm-hmm. That 10% can kind of ruin it for everyone, starting every goddamn war around the world for one thing.
Yeah.
And also, you know, then you have the people who, you know, they're certainly allowed to believe what they believe, but then when they shut you down from even introducing something, especially when you're giving them concessions like, hey, yeah, you might be right about this, or what the fuck do I know? And they're still like, no, it's this or it's that. That's where, you know, I try to just back off and say, okay, you know, just leave the conversation. They're going to believe what they're going to believe. Don't let it affect you. But it does piss me off sometimes because I'm like, what do you know?
Right.
Have you been there? Did you go? Were you there for the Big Bang?
Everybody can say that. And you know, but I think the key to all the religions is at least you're acknowledging, you know, a fundamental spiritual aspect to who and what you are. But so am I.
Yes.
And just because I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid that you're giving me with exactly what you're telling me it has to be, and there's no other way, I can't do that. I'm on my own journey. I can't take your word for anything. And so, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with what you're telling me. It's just that I'm going to make up my own mind. And it doesn't mean that it's really frustrating when you're a good person and you have somebody who professes that they're a good person telling you what a bad person you are.
Yes.
It's like, give me a break.
Yeah. I mean, exception to the rule. I want to highlight that. Like, I do view that as more of an exception. It is frustrating when you run into it, though. I share your opinion completely there. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.